Okay. So it's a quick reminder of your buttons on Zoom. If you click the participants button at the bottom, you're able to access the button to raise your hand if you want to say something, or you can chat something if you'd like to chip in on the discussion if you have questions. So we have time for questions and answers later after the presentation. Since we're a pretty small group, I'd like to ask everyone to introduce themselves. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but just say your name, say if you're a student or you're an organizer, or if you're a teacher, and your city and country. So I'll call people according to how they're listed down in my participants list. Caroline, would you like to go first? Or if your connection's unstable, you can also have the option to chat.
Oh, okay. Well, then my connection is very unstable, so let me do the chat.
All right. Next, I have Maria Isabel.
Yeah, sure. Wait, would you mind repeating like the prompt again?
No problem. So it's your name, if you're a student or organizer, and what city and country you're from.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Maria Isabel, but I go by Isa. I'm a student at University of Pittsburgh, but I also do a lot of organizing there. I'm originally from St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Isa. Next on my list is Melissa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Melissa Zamora. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. I am currently the facilities coordinator at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. I used to be a student. I graduated here with an environmental science degree, and I'm very involved and passionate about trying to reduce the amount of plastics that we use currently on campus.
Thanks, Melissa. So next on my list is Ryan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Cruz. I work for the Surfrider Foundation, and my role is helping our student club network engage in ocean protection work on their campuses and in their communities. And I am based in Oregon in the USA.
Thanks, Ryan. Next, I have Ari Young.
Hi, yeah, my name's Rachel. I work for Oceania Canada as a grassroots project coordinator, and we have a plastics campaign that is growing, and so just here to learn more about engaging different grassroots groups, specifically universities and colleges here in Canada, and yeah, I'm in Toronto.
Thanks, Rachel. Lastly, I have Rafael, who just joined us now. So Rafael, if you can quickly just unmute yourself and let us know your name, if you're a student or organizer, and the city and country you're from. Or he might not be joining the session yet. Okay, maybe we can just get back to him later. All right, so let's move on. So our agenda for today, for the student survival session to campaigning is basically a step-by-step lineup of how we present the individual action plan in the Plastic Free Campuses website. So that includes forming your eco task force and setting a common vision and specific goals and tools for that, stakeholder mapping, examples of plastic-free projects to do for your campaign in your school, and aligning with the greater movement for breakthrough from plastic. I see that Ryan and Rachel are from Surfrider, and you guys are a lot more experienced on this, and we have some student campaigners here, so you might already know these steps, but I'd love to have a discussion with you guys afterwards. Oh, it's a GIF. So let's get right to it. So this is online session number 3, the Student Survival Guide to Campaigning. As most of you know, this is the content for the global launch that was planned for February this year, which got postponed to March. It was a physical convention, an international convention that was going to happen in the Philippines, but then it got postponed again because of COVID-19. So we're shifting content online for May. So this is the last session for May. We will still be organizing sessions after this, and I'd love to get your feedback on what you'd want to learn about. So step 1, for student campaigners who'd like to lobby for their campus to go plastic free is to form their eco task force. So this eco task force is the group that will be running the campaign with you. And it's important to identify that group of people, of hardworking and motivated people, to be part of your task force, because they'll be the one who's going to be doing the campaign with you, envisioning what you want for your school with you, and motivating each other as well. It's a very essential part of your campaign so that everyone is organized and everyone is strategic towards what you want to happen. And they will be also your fellow leaders and organizers. So your eco task force should have a leader who will steer your group in the right direction. And this leader will be the responsible role model for the group, will be steering the group in setting goals, managing timelines, and creating new leaders within the group. Here, I have a photo of International School of Geneva in Geneva, Switzerland. They have environmental champions per grade level. So they have an eco task force member per grade level, which gives them that leverage to strategize on how they'll approach their batch. And also, fortunately for them, they have an advisor that's part of the faculty who becomes a bridge for what they want to happen in the school from them to the administrators. So it helps a lot if you have a teacher who's willing to help you and advise and get your ideas, push your ideas forward and to the admin or your principal. And if not, it's fine as well. Maybe you'll get one along the way as you campaign. In Silliman University as well in the Philippines. So Silliman is also the plastic-free school. They have environmental champions per department of their university. So the art department has an environmental champion, the engineering department has an environmental champion, their dormitories have environmental champions. I think it's 1 or 2 each. And each champion is tasked to do something about the Plastic Free Campus campaign in their own way. So for example, in their art department, they're making infographics and paintings about plastic. And installations about plastic. In the dormitories, they're monitoring and consistently educating their residents on how to live plastic free. So it's part of making people aware of the lifestyle that we're pushing and merely letting them know that there are ways to approach this and not just merely, implementing policies without students understanding what's happening. So step 2, once you have your eco task force, is to set a common vision and goals within your team. So it's important that each one understands why you're motivated to do this and why you're doing this for your school. So it's very useful to involve your whole campaigning group in exploring the problem of your schools. So your vision has all the changes that you want to happen and what the world or community looks like with the changes that you want to happen. So it's important that everyone has a shared understanding and everyone gets to chip in and discuss on what you want to happen. So this group of people will also be the ones helping you implement and make changes onto the implementation of your campaign if necessary, so you're able to assess. So in creating a common vision, you have to start by answering 3 questions. So number 1, what problem are you facing? So as a team, you must answer this collaboratively and ask, what problem are we facing? So why is there a lot of plastic in school? It can be as simple as that. Where is the plastic coming from? How do we identify where the plastic is coming from? Why is there a lot of plastic? Does my school lack awareness? Is there a lack of policy? What do you want to push for? So discuss and decide as a group what core problem your campaign seeks to address, and elaborate all the diverse effects of that core problem in your school. So number 2 is creating a kind of a vision board of what the world will be after you've identified your problem and propose what world you want, what changes you want. So use words, diagrams, and illustrations. You can create mind maps, and you can go crazy by not thinking about your limitations, like, oh, we'll never be able to do this because we don't have funding. You know, just go crazy, because we can always step back and do baby steps to reach what you want to happen. So discuss and enumerate that as a team, and it's important that each person gets to do that, gets to chip in on the discussion, so that we all have that common goal as a team. And it's also important to write in and put it in the mind map what changes you would bring about this vision. So combine your individual visions to create that one vision for the campaign, and discuss in depth which broad actions or changes would resolve the problem you identified, so as to arrive at the world you have envisioned. So these necessary actions are the main focus of your campaign. And once you're able to discuss that, you're able to ripple down the tasks that you have to do to be able to do that. And once you're able to create that common vision, you're ready to create goals, or what we say, SMART goals. So it's important that your goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So those are just the aspects that you'd like to consider when you're creating these goals. So let's say, for example, you want to ban single-use plastic in the cafeteria, and that's specifically what you want to do. And you'll be able to measure this and be able to know that you've achieved this once there's no more single-use plastic in the cafeteria. So to make this achievable, we have to determine the tasks. For example, what are the single-use plastic items in the cafeteria? Who are the people that I have to talk to? Do I have to talk to my cafeteria manager? What are the things I have to know? Does my school have contracts with suppliers, so we can't exactly stop single-use plastic yet? What are the first things that we can start banning and campaigning for to stop my school from procuring them? So the next one is, it has to be relevant, and we all know why it's relevant. It's important for our co-students to understand where their waste actually goes after it's being dumped, and how this affects them unknowingly through consumption, air pollution, and climate change. And next, it has to be time bound. So if you have goals, you have to put timelines on what you want to do. So for example, if you want to start with utensils, you can set a goal to stop procuring utensils by May and start shifting to reusables. And then maybe shift to refillable container drinks next. So it's a step-by-step process for most people. It doesn't often come in one go. So it's a process. It's a process you have to go through. It's a wonderful process. So I want to put this quote in here because I want students to know that these small differences can make significant impacts later, even if you don't feel it right now, and it's at the root of what we do. So you never know just how much that small action will actually be able to impact your school. And even if it's not successful at first, we can be relentless. We can, even if it doesn't work out at the first time, it's worth trying. It's a very act of trying that actually inspires others to take action as well. So once you're able to set down your goals with your team, this is a process from plan called stakeholder mapping or target mapping. So you start creating a map, the targets or maps who your audiences are, who the audiences of your campaign are. So you start to put which entities are important to be able to carry out your action. So there's a tertiary, secondary, and primary stakeholders. And once you figure out that map, you can then start to strategize what to put first, how to go about your campaign, and what will be effective for them. So for plastic-free campus campaigns to be sustainable, we highly recommend that your end goal be to meet with their president and convince them to go plastic-free. And it's not an easy task for a lot of people. There are schools that have presidents who are the ones who are leading the campaign to go plastic-free, but then that's not the case for most people, right? So in this case, your primary target, which is the hardest one to reach, or the ultimate decision maker for your campaign to be more sustainable, is the president. And then the secondary circle outside of the president is the circle that you want to put the stakeholders who directly affect your president. So for example, if your student government actually has access to talking to your president once every quarter, you can bring this about with them, etc. Or you can get your sustainability coordinator in your secondary circle as well. And the tertiary target are people who influence the secondary target. So these could be the clubs, the organizations in your campus, the classes. And this is an example. So I recommend that you do it with Postit notes, and if you have a whiteboard, that would be great. So consider each stakeholder's level of support and level of influence when you put in the Postit notes in the context of your campaign objectives. And after mapping out as many stakeholders as you can, you'll have a graphic representation of your relationships, of your stakeholders' relationships with the issue. So here you have, this is from Plan. All these examples are from Plan. So the primary is the Office of the President, and the secondary, you have the Sustainability Council, and the head of the Environmental Studies Department, and outside of that, in the tertiary circle, you have the student unions, soccer teams, members of student government, etc. So it gives you a visual map of which to target first, which are easier to convince first, and then it will ripple down until you get access to being able to influence your primary stakeholder. And once you're done with that, you can use your you can use this map to your advantage from the Post-Landfill Action Network. And once you're done with that, you can also be able to target more by putting these Post-its next in this diagram. So this is a wedge that maps out how your stakeholders feel about your campaign. And you place each target according to their level of support for your campaign. So the result is a spectrum of parties or stakeholders that may or may not support you. So at the very left, you have your active allies. So this could be your eco task force, could be the people who are close to your eco task force and who are campaigning for the same thing. So the active allies represent the people who are supportive and already motivated to support your campaign and help you achieve your goals. Next to that are passive allies. So these could be people who are aware of the problem already and are not doing anything yet. So they could also benefit from your campaign and also support your campaign. Next, you have the neutral parties who may or may not be involved or affected by your campaign, but they may be indifferent or apathetic, but they're just in the middle. And then next, you have passive opposition. So these are people who would oppose your ideas or your campaign, but are not exactly doing anything, or may not really suffer from the success of your campaign. And next, you have your active opposition, who are actively interfering with your activities and really opposing your campaign to go plastic-free. So I don't imagine that people would actually campaign against it, but I know that there could be problems with, for example, private vendors in your school who do not want to invest more in reusables, etc. So that's an example. And you can put your Post-its wherever you like here. So it gives you an idea of how to mobilize your campaign. It gives you an idea of how to do that. And what I suggest is that for active and passive allies, you can do mobilization tactics, get them to go to plastic-free events and learn more about how easy it is to go plastic-free and how beneficial it is for your school. For neutral, it would be best to educate them first, spread awareness on your campaign and why it's important to you and your school. And opposing, use disruption or interference tactics, but I would suggest that you have a dialogue with them. What exactly is not working for them in this plastic-free future that you're envisioning? So it's important to have this dialogue, especially with people who might be suffering from that, because we don't want to be unfair to those who might need support to go plastic free. Maybe they just need extra funding to shift into reusables, or what they don't know what to do with all these cups that they already have, etc. So once you're able to map this out, you'll be able to have a clear view of what you actually can do in your school. And some tips: remember to build friendships and community within your eco task force and the direct community that you're impacting, and make it fun. It always has to be a fun journey for it not to be tedious. You know, it's a difficult one. It could be easier for some or difficult for some, but then having that support around you and having fun around you and making things fun actually, you know, releases your stress and makes the whole campaigning journey worth it. And also, another tip is to set weekly or bi-monthly meetings to monitor where you are with your goals and your timelines. You could assign someone in your eco task force to do that, to be the one responsible for the timelines, and to be able to tell you, we're not on track on this part, we're not on track on this part. And you can adjust accordingly on how you could implement what's working and what's not. So here is a big presentation of campaign examples that's already been done. This is not complete at all, but these are very worthy examples of how students got creative on how to tackle their problems with plastic on campus. So one of my favorite examples is UFSP and Plastico's initiative in Florianopolis in Brazil. So their campus released a statement or announced that, we're gonna go zero waste by 2020. And this group asked, how are you gonna do that? And the school didn't have anything to answer. They didn't know how to do it. They just wanted to announce it. So this group pushed this initiative forward to help the school. What they did was identify what's the biggest contributor of single-use plastic in their school, and they noticed that they had a lot of coffee shops on school. They had over more than 15 coffee shops in their university. So once they were able to identify that, they took a baby step and targeted that first. So they targeted the coffee shops, the coffee shop vendors, and the students who go to coffee shops. So what they did was create a badge for coffee shops who were already banning single-use plastic. So this is kind of a sustainability badge. And you can see it at the top right of the slide. So this badge came in 3 levels. One is a seed, next is a plant, and then the next is a tree or a flower. So if you get the seed badge, that means you already banned straws. In the next level, that means you already banned cups. And in the 3rd level, I think that means you already banned everything. So they found that students also go to the coffee shops. Since they were able to also spread that awareness through that badge, they found that students also participated by going to the coffee shops who had higher badges already. So that's a way to engage your community and be able to take a baby step into banning single-use plastic, and that's already so many cups saved. They also created this measuring cup that has a brand of their schools or their organization, UFSP and Plastico, for coffee shops to measure their coffee in, because they used to just use the single-use plastic that you use to measure it, and sometimes coffee shops even still use single-use plastic even if you carry your tumbler with you just to measure the cup. So to find a solution, they did a fundraiser and did that for the coffee shop. So problem solved. And then the last thing, one of my favorite things also is Isa, the campaigner in UFSP and Plastico, always says that their university likes to party, and there's so much single-use plastic when they do when they refill beer or whatever. So in parties, they started to do this colored cups campaign. So you get a you get a certain cup, a color for the department that you're in or the course that you're in. So if you're from art, you get blue. If you're from nutrition, you get yellow. And it sort of became a fun icebreaker because you could just start going up to people and say, hey, so you're from here, or you get to see who else is from the art department, etc. So it became a thing for them, and it was a very effective campaign. So that's one. Next, you can also organize cleanups with your school and then elevate that into brand audit. So one college has already pledged to be plastic free as Eckerd College, and they were able to do that through spreading awareness through brand audits. So brand audit is basically collecting the waste. Usually it's created through beach cleanups, but then elevated by auditing the waste that they actually do and classifying that into brands so that they know which brands are actually getting into their school and which brands they should approach to stop producing single-use plastic. So that's one thing. Another thing is an important part in auditing your campus waste. So to be able to identify that, you will have to check or at least observe where plastic is coming from. You can see, go to your cafeteria and see, oh, this person is using this, a lot of people are using this. But if you want to be more comprehensive about it, you can also audit your waste, your segregated waste, and see how many bottles are actually coming in, classify them, which is unrecyclable and which is not. And that could lay the foundation or groundwork for your campaign. You could spread awareness about how much waste is coming from your school that's actually not being recycled. And have tools here that are available from postlandfill.org, from Plan, and also plasticfreecampus.org that you can use as sheets for how you can start to monitor your waste. And I've seen students do campaigns for this. So for one, there's one student who collected plastic bottle caps from their cafeteria and made artwork out of it. And it became an effective awareness campaign to let people see how much waste is actually being thrown and not being recycled. So it gives people a perspective, if you're able to creatively do this, on how much waste you're actually dumping in it, and how much we can actually save from going to landfill by using reusables. You can also, in relation to cleanups, there are a lot of educational curriculums that are coming out to test microplastics, and that's also a way to ground your campaign into letting people know how much microplastics is actually affecting us with how we consume food that's in single-use packaging that uses plasticizers and BPA and etc. And apart from that, you can also organize conferences, invite a keynote speaker. You can hold the story of plastic screening if you're in university and have a discussion about it afterwards. So for everyone's information, Story of Plastic is open for virtual screenings. You can sign up at storyofplastic.org. Before, when Story of Plastic premiered and we were gearing up for the premiere of it, we were coming up with ideas of how people can access this with community screenings. But for now, since everyone's pretty much on lockdown, virtual screenings are available for everyone, for small groups, such as a class, up to a big group, like a big university. You can hold screenings for up to 500 people to 1,000 people. And one of the other initiatives you can do is create a Zero Waste Youth Conference. So the example here is from the Philippines at the lower photo. So it's one of the groups that asked or applied for a micro grant from Breakthrough from Plastic-Free Campuses. And they organized this Zero Waste Youth Convergence in their city for schools to come together. So they invited student governments and environmental groups from schools and universities to come together into that one venue to learn about zero waste and what they can do for their school to go plastic free. And it's also important to continually advertise your campaign and educate people about why you're doing this. So it's not merely a gimmick or some oppressive policy that they have to follow without them understanding it. So once you see that there are people who are apathetic, maybe it's worth trying to educate them and learn why they should care about it. And there's an array of infographics available on the web. If you go to Plastic Free Campuses website and bit.ly/plastic free campuses, we've listed infographics that are available there. That's very helpful to inform your peers about why plastic could be dangerous to them in many different ways. So this is another way to spread information through creative redesign of your garbage cans. This photo is from UC Berkeley, and I see this a lot in San Francisco as well, how they put where the trash actually goes. For example, instead of putting biodegradable, they put compost. Mixed paper it's also put in creative shapes so that people are able to classify them even easier or more easily. And you see that what you cannot recycle goes to landfill, and what you can recycle goes to recyclables. So I'm ending with a note that each journey will be different and there is no one solution to a diverse set of problems. We all live in very different cultural backgrounds, from the West to the East. It's all very different and everything must be approached in a different way. So take it one step at a time and be creative and have fun. What works for one university might not work for another, but that's why we also created this platform for people to be able to discuss, so that we're able to provide solutions from one end of the world to the other, and we're able to elevate this into a global platform because it is a global issue. So one more thing I wanted to mention is that you can apply for micro grants. If you are a student or an organizer or a school who wants to create a campaign and need funding for it, you can apply through the bit.ly/plastic free campuses website. So you can find the button there. And if you have any questions, you can also email me. So I've been mentioning a lot that your end goal, we highly encourage your end goal to be meeting with your chancellor or your president to make your campaign sustainable, because it's your president that's going to be able to direct policy for your school that's going to be staying there even after you leave. And also, it's your president that's going to be directing people under them to adjust to the new policies and what infrastructure changes have to be made. So one thing that you can do is present a petition to your president. So once you're able to gather signatures, for example, from your tertiary, the secondary stakeholders, you can get access to present this petition to your university chancellor or president and present why this is important to your school. I've seen people compare their school vision. You know how schools have that long mantra about we are an environmentally sustainable school, etc. And you can put that together and say procuring single-use plastic is not a sustainable thing. Why are we doing it? And if you need tools for negotiation, there are negotiation sheets you can read up on plasticfreecampus.org. And there are a lot of plastic-free events and guides in postlandfill.org if you're interested in that. So last tip, be relentless. It's very important to, we may feel discouraged when we get pushback from people being more apathetic or people not caring about the issue, but it's important to be relentless. The single-use plastic industry has penetrated our economy so intrusively, and we have to fight it. We have to be able to be smart and creative about how we can tackle this problem as a whole. And even if we have pushbacks, again, it's important to be creative and just do baby steps. Take a step back and see and analyze what else we can do. What should we stop doing? What works, etc. And lastly, okay, this is the last, I promise. I encourage everyone to align with the greater movement. So now everyone's in the Plastic Free Campus Network. I'm assuming everyone here is already in the Plastic Free Campus Network. And we have peaks coming up for the rest of the year, like Plastic Free July and Grand Audits. And we highly encourage you guys to participate because we're going to be doing a global effort for it. And I have my email here if you need to contact me. I promise I will respond. And if you want more information, you can go to the website. So yeah, that's the end. We have a lot of time for questions, but I want to call in Young first to share about their journey in getting UC Berkeley plastic free. So Young, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So also I'm going to talk more broadly about like colleges that we got to go plastic free in general, because I'm not from UC, but we helped them with their campaign along with Student PERG, which is the Public Interest Research Group. And I missed the first part of this because I had a meeting because I'm busy. So I'm sorry if I end up repeating things that TR already said. But for the US at least, and I'm going to guess other places, getting stakeholder backup of your campaign is going to be one of the most essential items. And so the way that we won a lot of the campaigns in the US and winning is that we have 5 schools that have signed on to our pledge here to break free from plastic, is getting petition signatures from students. So getting a lot of students to say that they are supporting your initiative, that this is what they want, this is the university that they want to go to, and then doing actions such as getting an SGB resolution to show the wide student support, and then reaching out to your faculty and your staff and getting departments along with departments in staff and also departments in faculty to sign on to your pledge as well. It builds campus-wide movement. And then I saw Tiara talked about negotiation, and that's a really essential aspect, and make sure that you are able to see the greenwashing that the school might want to be doing while also being able to be flexible with the solutions. But I can just stay on for questions too. Sorry, I came late.
Thanks, Young. No problem. Okay, so we're opening the floor for questions. We have around 15 minutes for it. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak and ask a question. Alternately, you can also chat if you're feeling shy today or your connection is bad to ask your question.
I'll ask, what has been the most difficult challenge to overcome through creating a plastic-free campus?
Thanks for
You
asking.
mean like the tangible step into create like the logistics of it?
Sure. Or whatever difficulties that you may have had that we could learn from or expect.
Tiara, I can answer this, but
Okay, you can answer first.
okay.
Go ahead.
I think one of the most difficult aspects of eliminating plastic from your university is your purchasing contracts. So most schools they get their beverages and their food through a contract with a company like Aramark, Sodexo, Pepsi, Coke. And oftentimes those contracts are 5 to 10 years in length. So if you want to go plastic free tomorrow, this contract is basically making sure that that can't happen. And you have to negotiate with these folks to get the contract to say that they're not going to bring single-use plastic. And of course, they could do aluminum cans, but it's not going to be an easy thing to change. The UC system, though, has some really great purchase policy language if you want to look into their language.
Thanks, Young. Well, I have an example from the Philippines. So a lot of students, when when the university is really big, the campaign for awareness tends to have holes in it. Like not everyone actually understands why your university is doing it. So um, students, for example, in Silliman University or Ateneo in the Philippines, just bring in single-use plastic and then uh, leave the plastic outside the school. So it doesn't really change anything because they're still using single-use plastic. And what happens is an accumulative dump of single-use plastic outside the school because they're not allowed to bring in single-use plastic anymore and they're not allowed to throw it in their bins. So what happened there was an effective and abrupt implementation of policy um, from higher ups up to the security guards of the schools here. But then the students didn't really understand why they had to do it or why it was important to the school to do it. So it's important to be able to educate everyone, if possible, even when you're really deep into it already and have the policies in place. Put the education for it, include it in homeroom classes for everyone to understand why plastic could be dangerous to us and for our communities. I hope I also answered your question, but I think Young could be able to give you more perspective from the US. We have another quest. Oh, sorry. A question from Jazali. What do you think are the main basic arguments and tools we can use to persuade all the staff and all the members at our university campus? What's the first step? You want to answer that, Young? I can also
Sure. This is basically using campaign tactics and meeting folks where they're at. So finding what they're passionate about and relating the plastics issue to that, which it definitely is probably related to. All of us want clean air. So even if it's something like that, you can relate it to that and say how our reliance on single-use plastic is threatening clean air for everybody. And I would just find what argument works for your audience. So it's a know your audience tactic. If you're coastal, it's probably going to be something related to the ocean. But if you're inland, it might be something else that folks are passionate about.
Thanks, Young. Also, I think what's helpful is computing the amount that you're going to be spending in reusables versus the amount that people actually spend in single-use plastic. Since a lot of schools don't want to jump into the reusables system because they don't want to invest in that infrastructure. But then there are tools online on how you can compute how single-use plastic is actually more costly in the long run versus investing in reusables and labor for washing reusables in the long term. So there are tools for that. I know it's in Plan's Plastic-Free Campus Manual. It's also, the link is also in the bit.ly/plastic-free campuses website. I hope we're able to answer your questions. Are there any more questions? Okay, a question from Rafael. Can you give us some tips on dealing with people that are totally against your movement? Young, would you like to answer this?
This depends on the person. So, and your own emotional capacity. So depending on me and how much emotional capacity at the time and my relationship with the person is how much energy I'll put into trying to describe my side. And it's a similar tactic, you know, you got to know your audience and find them where they're at. And an example of this is that I used to phone bank for an environmental organization asking for money. And this one man that answered immediately said that he didn't support the EPA and he said he hated Obama and Obama was our last president. And I had to try to meet him where he was at. I said, I didn't approve of everything Obama did, because I didn't. It's probably different things for me and him. And, you know, told him and related to him in the way that made sense for his experience, which was fishing, clean streams for fishing, hiking and stuff like that. And I ended up getting the donation just for being able to relate to this person, even though they outright didn't want to give me money to start with. So it really depends, and it's personal relationships that grow over time that are going to make these changes. But also don't waste your time. If you don't have the emotional capacity, it doesn't have to be your job to convince this person to care.
Thanks for that answer, Young. Yeah, I agree with you really need to try to relate to the people who are being against you. Either way, this really has to impact them because they're always using plastic, and plastic is not safe. Chemicals from foodware leak into our bodies, and there's a lot of proof for that. So it's good to stay with facts and be able to present that in a very try to be professional manner. But also I agree with Young, if it's not in your emotional capacity to deal with this person and they're being too much. I know it's way different in the US. In the Philippines, we're not like that. So it depends on you, but I would strongly suggest education. And usually you can do this, even just watching the story of plastic will be able to help you a lot. If you're in university and people will be able to see how much oppression happens with plastic and how we're not able to relate that in our daily life. And Gisali mentioned here that they are from a marine science and coastal management university, but plastic is part of their daily life. And you do cleanups in beaches, but yeah, we need to tackle this crisis of plastic once and for all. So Plastic-Free Campus is all about prevention, and the whole Break Free from Plastic movement and all organizations working with Break Free from Plastic are focusing on prevention because we have so much plastic already. We need to stop the production and procurement of plastic rather than just cleaning it up after it's dumped. And also a chat from Jordan. I've learned that listening to others opposing arguments and validating how they feel will often create a space where you can have a productive conversation about this issue. Very well said. So if anyone has anything to share, feel free to unmute yourself as well. We love to learn from other people's journeys and hurdles and be able to do what we can when we encounter them. And if you're already going plastic free, you can share as well how your journey is going. This will be an awkward silence of maybe 10 to 15 seconds. So wait
Hey,
for
sorry.
Hey,
I
Isa.
actually, I had a question, but I was like trying to figure out how to word it. But I guess what I'm gonna ask is, would you say that there's a difference in difficulties in getting your school to sign on to the plastic free pledge if you go to a bigger school as opposed to if you go to a smaller school? Like, I guess, are there different difficulties?
Yeah, so at Plan, which is the organization I work for, and I'm gonna put our information in the chat, we constantly say that each university is different. So I would recommend making a meeting if you're in the US. Are you in the US? Yeah. So you can make a meeting with me and we can talk over the details of like what your university is, how many folks go there, how many folks live on campus versus off campus, how many folks like there's so many factors that goes into it, so it's very particular, but that's what I'm here for, and we can chat about it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Hey, Thanks, Isa. And to everyone, thank you for joining. I don't think we have any more questions. If you do have questions, feel free to email me or Young. If you're in the US, feel free to go directly to Young because they will be able to answer your questions with better context. If you're outside the US, I can answer your questions or I can direct you to a grassroots movement that's working with plastic-free campuses near you. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And I hope to see you guys more with the movement. I'm really excited to work with you if you're able to join with our future campaigns. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'll be going to sleep because it's the morning here in the Philippines. And I hope everyone has a good day. Yeah, thanks. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks.